The following podcast is an Enticing Media production.
Where the Nell have you been? Join us for conversation about life, business, and everything in between. Welcome to What the Nell, where we've got stories to tell. Here's your host, Nell Tice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast with your host, yours truly, Nell Tice. I'm so excited today because I know I always say I'm so excited, but I have an awesome guest with me today. I've been looking forward to recording with her for what feels like so long now, even though we kind of just met. But my guest is Bitsy McCann. She is the designer, strategist, and founder behind Bitsy Plus Design, a boutique branding and web design firm in central Pennsylvania. While she spends most of her time creating impactful brands, Bitsy also writes regularly for the Central Penn Business Journal, and she also gigs at wineries and breweries and continuously adds to her gigantic earring collection. I love that. Welcome, Bitsy, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Nell, for having me. I've been looking forward to this as well.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me more about the gigantic earring collection. I gotta know, are we talking like early 2000s, like big hoops, or like what are we talking about?
So I feel like I've immediately set everyone up for a letdown. If you're watching from the video, these are like a very low-key set of earrings that I have.
They're
Most of them
beautiful.
are giant. They'll go past my chin, and it's everything from gumball machines to lollipops to UFOs sucking cows up to astronauts. I mean, the crazier they can be, the better. And they almost never match my outfit. So the fact that I'm being very matchy today, it is a huge shocker for me as well.
I absolutely love that. I was actually just at a craft vendor fair type thing in Ocean City, Maryland called Springfest. And they have a lot of vendors there with designers and local craftspeople. And there was this stand with the most unique, amazing earrings. I'm talking like Dr. Pepper cans, popcorn machines, totally just things you would pick out of life, dinosaurs, everything for earrings. And I was like, I want them all because I used to love to wear like the biggest, flashiest earrings I could possibly find.
What do you have now?
So right now, I mean, I'm so boring. I have studs on because I don't wear big earrings when I wear headphones when I record
Oh, that's
because they
fair.
just kind of they like dig into my double chin. So I'm like, I can't have that. And you can't really see them. So I have like these big chandelier crystal earrings. I have big like wooden ones and things like that. Just like fun stuff. Stars, moons. I love, if you're watching the video, I love little like moon celestial jewelry. Super cool. So
Yeah, I'm into that too. I think for me though, I can't ever do a necklace because I always feel like I'm going to choke myself out somehow. I am notorious for running into things, well, slamming into things really, and just constantly injuring myself. And I'm like, if I wear a necklace, like I will get choked out. I can't bring myself to do it. So earrings are like the extent that I go, but even then, like they'll be ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, I know who I am. Worst case scenario, I have to like not put earrings in for a couple months while my earlobe heals, but like that's like the length of like injury I would do with earrings. You see what I'm saying? So I'm like,
yeah,
the risk reward seems okay on that one. So I
totally
could do
get
that.
that.
But necklaces, no way. No way. Can't do it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I love your energy too. And I mean, you must bring so much amazing energy into your business. And you recently just celebrated 10 years of being in
Yeah.
business. So,
Yeah.
first, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Secondly, I mean, 10 years. So, what would you tell yourself when you first started as an entrepreneur 10 years ago? What would you tell yourself knowing what you know today?
Oh my goodness. It's gonna get better. It's
Oh,
gonna get better. I think for me, I didn't come from a background where I had a lot of entrepreneurial help to start my business. I moved to an area where I didn't really know a lot of people for my husband's job. And it was tough to get going and it was tough to get some traction.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of those first couple years really doubting my abilities as a creative, but also as a successful business owner because I wasn't successful. I would
Mhm.
say for the first 3, 4 years, I was never in the red. I didn't lose money, but I definitely didn't make a lot at all.
Mhm.
So I think just going back, I was always very tenacious and I was always definitely going to keep moving in the direction I needed to keep moving in. But if I had just could go back in time and be like, hey, you're doing all the things, it's going to get better. Don't freak out and think that your business is going to fold. I think that would be the biggest thing for me.
Oh.
Just knowing that like there is success down the road and I already knew to stick with it, but just maybe having old me tell younger me, just you're doing great, just keep at it would have been helpful.
Oh, that's amazing. I think so many new entrepreneurs need to hear that. And I don't consider myself seasoned by any stretch of the imagination because technically, I guess we've been doing this for like 5 years now, but technically 2.5 full time. So I do constantly find myself in that position where I'm like, okay, even though we've technically been in business for about like was it 4 years? Yeah, it's 5 years now or
Mhm.
soon to be 5. And I look at that number as like the line that I'm at. And I'm like, no, you're not. This is fine. You're doing fine. It is going to get better. You're going to be more successful. And it's not the same journey for everyone. So you can, you know what, as long as you keep doing it, you can do it for 10, 15, 20. It doesn't matter. And just keep going. I think that's amazing advice to tell you and everybody listening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it can be really difficult when you're starting something out and you don't have the support that maybe other people have, right?
Yeah,
Like even if you have emotional support from your friends and family, you don't necessarily have that business support from somebody else.
for
It
sure.
can be really difficult in those moments because you're not sure what like you should be doing or what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think at the end of the day, especially if you're entrepreneurial and you're trusting your gut on a lot of it, you're going to get through it in the way that you are. And you're going to fail along the way. But even all those failures add up to lessons. And it's something that I always used to roll my eyes so hard at when I was starting my business. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a lesson, but it sucks a lot. I was always really upset about that. But now, 10 years into business, if I do come across something that I have incredibly failed at or just misstepped wildly and could have done a better job, instead of being so down about it like I used to be when I was first starting out, I just
Mhm.
am like, well, I hopefully won't do that again. But I also have a horrible memory. So I may do that again. And if I do, it'll be fine and I'll still be alive. It'll be just fine. So I think having a different perspective, just the longer you're in business and in your own business, that really helps out in itself as well.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I love that. And every time something like that happens, you're right. When you do fail, and you will continue to fail, just because you've been in business for 10 years doesn't mean you're never going to do it again. But you're
Exactly.
better prepared for the future when that thing does happen. And you have that ability to say, cool, I'm going to stay alive and we're going to get through it and it's fine. And that makes you a better business owner and entrepreneur. And if you have a team, it makes you better for your team too. So,
Yeah.
so many positives come from that. What are some of the toughest things that you've learned over 10 years of being in business?
Ask for help before you need it.
Mm,
I think for me, so within the last 2.5 years, my sister has become my assistant. She's really helped
amazing.
me out. I should have really asked her to do that 6 years ago. I really should have asked for that. Now, there's something to be said about timing. Timing wouldn't have been right, before I did ask, but there are a lot of times I think we need help, but especially if we're solopreneurs, we feel very self-sufficient and that we
Yes.
have to be in order to show everybody that we've done it and we can do it. And I think that being stuck there in your head and just being really dedicated to you being able to do it, I think it's good. It keeps you moving forward. But at the same time, I think it can keep you held back a couple of steps because sometimes you just do need additional help,
Yeah.
whether it's someone who's adjacent in your field, whether it's hiring someone on part-time to help you, whether it's offloading some of your work to a trusted colleague.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think you just need to do those things. And even before Venus came on board, and she is my star. I love her so much.
Aw.
She really like it makes me get my work done, right?
Yeah.
But even before that, there were times when should have absolutely teamed up with another professional. But I think
Mm.
you also have these feelings like if I work with somebody else, I'm going to hurt somebody else's feelings and or they're going to take my client and or you have all of these negative
Yeah.
thoughts spinning around you and generally most of the time that isn't how it happens. They always say that collaboration is what happens at the top and competition is what happens at the bottom. So
Oh, I
I
love
think if you
that.
get out of that competition mindset and get into that collaboration mindset, you're just
Mhm.
going to be on your way to doing better, bigger, greater things than you would have had you gone on your own.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Collaboration is what happens at the top. Competition is what happens at the bottom. That is amazing. So I just literally like that's like you just made my week. I love that saying so much because it's so so true. And I actually was just having this conversation with my husband the other day because I came from I'll call it the coffee and tea beverage industry, manufacturing. And that industry in itself is so interesting. And that's kind of where I got started in like the business mindset. Obviously, I had other jobs before, but I started really paying attention when I was in that industry. And it's so incredibly competitive because there's recipes and there's things like that and it's everybody's very protective of what they've built and what they've created. So, and certain companies are more competitive than others, but it is an incredibly competitive industry. And I thought
Mhm.
that's how all business owners had to be
Mhm.
successful. So I learned a lot about what not to do because when I started doing this, I was like, wait, people are willing to share. People are willing to collaborate and connect and work together and not be afraid that someone was going to steal somebody else's client. That to me was like a bizarre way of thinking. And now I know it restores my faith in humanity, honestly.
Well, I think too, like when you're worried about competition all the time, you're not worried about if you're servicing your clients in the way that you need to. You're not worried about if your craft is as good as it should be. You're not worried about how to make yourself better at what you do. So I think when you're kind of looking out for other people versus just zeroing in on yourself and what you do, it can be really detrimental to being able to move forward in a really positive way. And
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that positivity literally will take you anywhere you want to go. Because if you're not positive, then it's going to be really hard to find that traction to get somewhere, even because you're going to be stuck in all the negatives of life.
Oh my gosh, it's so true, so true. You don't know how many good clips you've given me for social media purposes already in this episode. What are we like 10 minutes in? So I have my editing cut out for me. But I mean, you're just literally, it's gold what you're saying. And I absolutely agree with you. I do want to get more into the actual nature of your business. So, who is your ideal client? Who do you serve and how do you help them?
Yeah. So, as far as ideal client, I wouldn't say that I have one specific kind of client that I love to work with. At the end of the day, right, my ideal client is from any industry with any budget area. They have to be able to pay my hourly fee. And I charge hourly for everything.
That's
But
important.
beyond
Okay.
it, I just want them to come to me because they already know that I'm going to do my very best job for them. And I'm really fortunate because in my business, it's all about creativity, which goes with the visual, goes with the content writing, goes with unique ways to do search engine optimization, right? It all kind of ties in together.
Mhm.
But I really love when someone just comes in, they trust me to do what I'm good at. They just let me design their logo, design their marketing materials, design their website, make sure that everything looks like a giant brand versus a little mom and pop. And then I send them on their way with training on how to update their website. So they don't have to pay me my hourly if they don't feel like it. So it's really nice in that regard to not have necessarily a niche that I work in, but more so somebody that trusts my expertise, that I've been doing this for 10 years. And I always work so hard with every project I have. I want it to be better than the last brochure I designed. I want it to be better than the last website I designed. I want it to be better than the last logo I designed. So for me, someone that listens to me and also understands that I am not a yes man in any way, shape, or form. So if somebody comes to me with just like the worst idea they've ever had in their whole life, but they think it's great, I'm going to tell them it's bad. And so somebody that doesn't get their feelings hurt by expertise and opinions in regard to that expertise. But beyond that, no, I don't work with a specific industry. Like I've designed everything from recruiting companies to restaurants to online metaphysical shops to, I mean, you name it. I probably have a client in that industry, drywall, like
Amazing.
all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff. Yeah, but I think for me, it really stretches me as far as design is concerned, content writing is concerned, like the look and feel of a brand is concerned. So that for me is really fun. And I think that is also what keeps my business exciting. None of my websites are templated, not a single one. They're all custom created because I don't want any of my clients to have a website that looks exactly like somebody else's. That would break my heart. You know how sometimes you're on a website and you're like, I feel like I've seen this before, right?
Yeah.
Probably a templated website. And by the way, I am not saying that there's anything wrong with that. If you are DIYing it and you like are using a template, there is
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with you. But sometimes you're at that point in your career where you can't look like a mom and pop anymore. Or maybe
Mhm.
you're starting a business and you don't want to look like a mom and pop from the get-go. My goal with my clients is that they look like a national brand right out of the gate.
Mm.
Because you know how it is when you look like a national brand, it instantly builds trust and credibility.
Mhm.
So for me, I think with my clientele, especially, they are very much all in like 2024 versus
Yeah.
stuck in 2017 with outdated stuff. Now, I do have some clients, I designed their website back then. And I wonder sometimes, does it need a facelift? But at the same token, every website I design, I try to think about what things are going to look like in 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
And is it going to hold up?
Mm.
And I'm really happy to say when I go look at some of these sites I've designed 7, 8 years ago, they still hold up. Like there
Yeah.
might be some tweaks I might make, but
Sure.
instead of an entire rebrand like other ad agencies will try to talk you into, I maybe just need 5 hours to just freshen. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. So that's always my goal too with my clients is that, it's not one of the ad agencies will often tell you, I'm not knocking on ad agencies. If you work with an ad agency you love, stay there. That's perfect. But a lot of ad agencies will be like, we need to be constantly evolving and refreshing and shaping your brand. And we need to do a complete redesign probably every 3 to 5 years and blah, blah, blah. That's not necessarily the case. I think if you work with somebody that knows what they're doing and can somehow not see the future, but have a good idea of design and branding and where it's going to head.
Yeah. That's
That was a
amazing.
lot. I really sidetracked there, but this is a podcast, so
Yes,
let's
that's
go.
what we're
Right?
here for. I love it. I mean, there were so many tidbits of information in there that were so valuable and important. And one thing that I think you mentioned that really stuck out with me, because I kind of feel the same way about this, is getting I would say an ideal client, yes, is somebody that is open to receive, and I don't want to call it criticism. I want to call it objective visualization,
That's so
maybe.
nice, Nell, but sometimes it is criticism because sometimes the idea is just so horrific. You're like, why would you even put that together?
I know, I know. It's so, so true. And all right, yeah, we'll call it objective visualization to sugarcoat
Sure.
it, but we'll call it
Sure. Love
criticism
it.
for what it really is.
Love that sugarcoat though.
No, I mean, it's true. And you are in the industry, you are the expert for a reason. So, an ideal client would be open to you saying, "Hey, I love your idea. It's great, but maybe let's kind of spin this in a different direction that might resonate better with your audience." And things like that. being open to the reason why you are the expert and why they hired you to begin with. And, there are a lot of clients out there that will say something like, I mean, I just recently had somebody say, "Oh, people don't want to watch this." And I was like, "Well, wait a second. Yes, they do." And I know because I've created something already that people wanted to watch about this. So it's, I get that. I totally do. And yeah, that's a big thing. And as a creative, I mean, that's where I think anybody would want to be, artists and anybody that creates anything, musicians. You want to be respected for the work that you do and the reason why your client hired you. It's that simple.
Exactly. And I think too, people need to do their research when they're hiring a creative.
Oh
Like
my
if
gosh,
you,
yes.
don't hire the person that you didn't look at their portfolio, and don't hire this person because they're $500 less than this other person, or they're
Hmm.
$500 more than this other person, right? You want to hire the creative where you look at their work and you go, wow, this is it. And
Yeah.
then you just want to pay them and you just want to trust them. Because if you look at the portfolio and you're impressed by it, then let them do what they do best and impress you with what they're
Yeah.
working on for you. Same with photographers, videographers, people that do digital specializations. Like just trust them. But I think what happens a lot of times too is people don't suss out the creative that they're working with in a way that they need to
Mhm.
know that that's the right fit. I mean, I'm one of what, a bazillion web designers and logo designers. Like I'm like a little teensy tiny fish in a giant, giant pond. So if people are working with me, they've got to trust that I'm going to do my best for them based
Mhm.
on what's in my portfolio.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I just don't understand the concept of actually hiring a creative without looking at their portfolio first. And so, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I really, really appreciate that. But two, I think that the experience is also really valuable too. And because, let's face it, there are certain industries with certain professionals that have stereotypes, right? It's kind of like the whole mechanic, like grease monkey type idea. But if you can create an experience for a client that is above and beyond what is expected, then that too will set you apart. I mean, just in meeting someone, having a discovery call and things like that, if you can add little touches and make yourself stand out, then that also helps provide in putting yourself against other competition, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
in getting to connect with the right type of client. So,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And with, different creatives and how you might find them, it's funny because I will always ask clients on my discovery calls, right? And I don't call it a discovery call.
Yeah.
That feels too impressive to me. So I'm always like, let's just chat. I'll get you some numbers, right? But when I do these initial calls, I will ask every single one, did you have a chance to look at my portfolio? I would
Hmm.
say, I don't know, 50% ish of the time, people are like, no, I haven't had a chance to look at that yet.
Oh
So it's really
gosh.
funny to me because I don't know if it's like that in other industries, but it's pretty rampant for me personally, right? And
Hmm.
I don't know if it's just that I'm by referral only, my whole business, right? You
Hmm.
can't find my phone number or my email on my website. It doesn't exist. So I
Wow.
think because I'm by referral only, maybe it happens to me more often because people just, whoever they're getting referred from, they just trust automatically.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. But I always think like, well, what if your friend has garbage taste in art or like website SEO?
So true.
And this is the other thing that I thought was so crazy to me. So one client, I guess colleague more so, but we both work in the same like web space. They charge 2 to 3 times as much as me, right? So I
Mhm.
just assumed that they were 2 to 3 times better than me, right? Like in my head, that's just how it all made sense, right?
Mhm.
So they actually white label hired me to do like a little bit of ghost design on their end. And they
Okay.
had me go in to edit one of the websites that they'd already created. It's been launched for like 6 months, a year, something like that. Like it's
Yeah.
been on for a while. They never did the back end search engine optimization.
What?
So hear me out on this. Like, it's not always about price, right? And I'm
Yeah.
definitely not cheap or anything, but like, I'm not the lowest. I'm definitely not the highest.
Right.
And it's wild to me that like people can get away with charging so much money and people just naturally assume that they're going to get a better quality product.
Yeah.
The biggest thing in all of this is the portfolio. You have to look at it. and you have to know. And the other thing I'll say is if you're getting a website done, take some of their clients on there, go to Google Incognito or Bing Incognito or wherever your search engine is, Brave, whatever you use. Go use an incognito window and whatever that business is and whatever location they are. So don't use their name like, R&D Flowers or whatever. Don't search that. Search like Flower Shop, Central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
See if they pop up. What city are they in? Flower Shop, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Are they popping up on Google and Bing and all these other search engines in the top? And if they're not, maybe they have beautiful design and beautiful content, but they're not showing up on the internet. So what does it matter how good it looks?
Absolutely.
So none of my clients do that.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, but like everyone should if they're sussing out a web designer. Like you have to go make sure that it's not just going to be pretty and well written. You have to make sure that it's going to show up. Now, hey, if you don't want your website to show up on anywhere on the internet, who cares? You know what I mean? Hire based on beauty and words. But if you do, like, you should be going into that portfolio, looking at it, and then checking it out.
I mean, I feel like that's step one in the portfolio. If it shows up, that's number one, because you're right. What is all of the content and what is all of the beautiful design stuff even matter if it's not getting in front of anyone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love it. Okay. So I know when we first met, we talked about something that's very interesting, and you brought something up that I wanted to talk about because I think it's so true. We were talking about you being in business for 10 years and that it's typical for men to celebrate and use the numbers, like been in business for 10 years or made such and such in revenue and that type of thing, and post it all over social media. And women are more likely to suppress that and kind of like not take the compliment or not even acknowledge an accomplishment like that. So how did you arrive at that thought? And I mean, let's kind of get into that.
Yeah, well, I read an article about it, as a matter of fact, and it was interesting because I had, for my 10-year anniversary, I had been feeling very not interested in celebrating in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And Venus, my assistant, was like, yo, you got to do something because I know future you, and future you is going to be very sad that you didn't do anything to celebrate 10 years in business.
Aww.
Most businesses fail within the first 5 years, right? And not to say that they all fail per se. Some people just pivot, they start a different business, right? But that being said, like, it's now 10 years later, you've done the thing, you've created a successful thing. My husband, I have a daughter who's 5. My husband's been a stay-at-home dad pretty much since she was born. So not only do I have an entrepreneurship, right, that's made it, but I'm also able to support my husband and my child on it. So it's not just like a little, basement business, right? It's like a business, but I was still like, so what? Why would I celebrate it? So anyway, she forced me into having a party, which I literally sent out one singular email 2 months before it happened and never followed up a single time after that because I still was feeling weird about it, right?
Yeah.
Why do I want to get out in front of people and celebrate my success? It just felt weird and wrong to me. So I was curious about why. And you guys will have to Google it because I don't have the stats or whatever with me now. But it was something like the vast majority of women, comparatively with men, women do not celebrate their successes in the same way. They're not as loud and boisterous about it. They don't talk about it as much. They're not as comfortable being confident, especially in the career realm. So it was one of these things for me where I just thought to myself, like, oh, this is intrinsically part of me being a woman then, because maybe it's just a part of, I don't know if it's because of cultural and societal norms that we don't feel as comfortable being very excited about our successes. I don't know if it's just genetics, all that estrogen just overtaking things. I don't know. But in a lot of studies that they have done, it just showcases that men are very comfortable to be confident about their successes and mention it, and women are not. So I was like, oh, well, that makes sense why I didn't want to throw this party. But I have to tell you what, after I did, the next time I throw a party, I'm going to send out that email. People are going to be getting reminders up the wazoo because I had a lovely time. And it was one of these things as well where once people were there, right? And again, of course, it's people that frankly made me a priority. They got one
Yeah.
notification of it and then they put it on their calendar, right?
Yeah.
But like just having those people there around, it just felt comfortable because they were all my really good clients and some of my really good colleagues. So it made a difference in that
Yeah.
regard.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's awesome to hear. I was going to ask you, so how was the party actually once you were
It
there?
was
And
fantastic. It was fantastic. Yeah. Venus and I had a whole decor theme plan and we really pivoted. I know some people hate that word since COVID, but whatever. We really pivoted. And instead of using these like balloon trees, we just blew up a ton of balloons and put them all around the corners of the room. And
oh, I
we had
love
food
that.
and beverages, and it was just nice. And I just
That's
thought, you
cool.
know what? I can throw a party every couple of years to just have some of my
Yeah.
favorite clients and people in a room together. I think that's an easy do for me. So I think who knows, maybe every 2 years I'm gonna start celebrating now because it was
That's
such
a
a
good
lovely
idea.
time.
I'm gonna take
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna take that as advice and throw parties. And especially, I mean, I think it's really important as digital creators and business owners. We're not often in person with our clients and maybe as often as we should be. And I think that's a really great way to connect and to be able to offer that in-person opportunity. Throw a freaking party. I mean, you did it when you were 19 when you wanted to hang out. Why wouldn't you do it now?
Why wouldn't you do it now? And then also when you can be surrounded by clients, colleagues, business
Yes.
associates that you really respect and admire and just enjoy being in their presence. Yeah. So listen, you're going to have a party for your next business anniversary and then just throw one every other year. You know what I mean?
Love
Or
it.
every year. Hey, every year, why not? Like today is as good of a day to celebrate as any. So
Oh, I love it. Kenneth, do you hear that? I am throwing a party. It's happening. We're putting in the budget.
he's like, I didn't hear anything. Okay, keep
Yeah.
going.
It's like I didn't listen to that episode. I love it, Bitsy. You're an absolute joy to talk to. And I've been dying because this is like one of my favorite parts of all of the episodes that we do. But we have a tradition here at What the Nell. And I always like to ask our guests, what the Nell stories? Do you have one? And yeah, it can be anything about the topic at hand or not. But yeah, share with us your
Yeah.
awesome What the Nell story.
I've really thought about this, and I had a couple what the Nell stories because I have a lot of what the Nell happenings in my life because I am a chaos beacon. Okay. That being said, the story I'm going to share with you today, and I have to leave out so many details because I don't want anybody listening to this to have any idea who it was.
Oh
Okay.
gosh, okay.
But I was at an event and I met some other business people. And so they're all going around and sharing what they do. And I asked this one person, because they hadn't talked yet. I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, I work in marketing. And I'm like, oh, cool. Then we're like adjacent colleagues. That's awesome. What's your name? And they tell me their name. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'd never heard of them. But here's the thing, I like live underground. My day is no joke, work, 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 hang out with my kid, work, 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 go to
Mhm.
bed. And then on the weekends, I'm like a part-time parent during the week. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So on the weekends, I just like love to be with my kid.
That's
I'm in
great.
that phase of I have a 5-year-old who thinks I'm super cool. So I'm going to take advantage of that before she's
Yeah.
15 and legit
Uh-huh.
hates my guts. Right. So I'm like, that's my life right now. So I'm not on social media very often.
Mhm.
Like I might post once a month on Facebook and I might post like once every 8 months on Insta. I'm just like, I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
If I do have time for it, it's literally watching the reels on Instagram that my sister sent me. I'm not even like
Yes.
scrolling, right?
Yeah.
I wish I had time for it. I don't. So like, I don't know. And I'm not on LinkedIn a lot. So I don't know who anybody is, whether.
Yes.
So anyway, so I asked their name. They tell me their name and I go to be nice because I'm nice. I'm not an ogre. And I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. And then their friend next to them was like, yeah, like everybody knows who they are. And I was like, this is crazy. And I wish that I had a friend that loyal because that was so intense to say
Oh
that out loud in a
yeah.
public setting. But I loved it. Okay. So anyway, we have a chit chat that time. It feels a little weird and like a little hostile, but I can't really put my finger on it. Okay.
Okay.
The other thing is they talked really a lot of crap about the platform I build websites in. And then wouldn't you know, I go home and looked up where their website was built in, and it was built in the same platform. So it was just very funny. Like the whole thing, it was like out of body experience because I'm like, I feel like this person's gunning for me and I don't know why. Then
Oh,
I find out like a whole month later, okay, they are mutual friends with a colleague that I do a ton of business with, like a ton
oh
of business with.
gosh.
And we have a really respectful and honestly lovely and kind of loving, like I love this person relationship.
Aw.
Like we think the best of each other, you know?
Right, right.
Anyway, they told my colleague when they met me after a huge eye roll that I tried to steal business from them. And
What?
that's just like not, yeah, and that's just not in my character as a person to do that. I have a lot of integrity and
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. So I charge by the hour, right? I don't charge by the hour ish. No, no, no. I charge by the second, like down to the second. And if I was working
Wow.
on your project 4 minutes and 7 seconds, you're going to get a bill for 4 minutes and 7 seconds. Like
Hell
I'm just
yeah.
really intense. So anyway, so my colleague stopped them and was like, listen, I know Bitsy, there is no way. There have been times where she's had my client reach out to her direct and she reroutes them back to me. So like that has happened so many times. There is
Right.
no way that like she would have said that to you. So anyway, of course this was all like what the Nell. And when I was at this like business event, I kept waiting for like cameras to come out of places because it seemed so crazy to be happening. But
Yeah, like you were getting
I
punked or
realized,
something.
well, I did, but here's the thing. I realized I made it. Okay. There's someone that I didn't know
Oh.
that disliked me so much that they tried to ruin a business collaboration relationship
Mm-hmm.
between
Mm-hmm.
me and one of my very respected colleagues. So I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes, yes, of
Oh, okay.
course.
So I was like, oh my God, I am big shit now. I had no idea. So
Yes.
anyway, so like I celebrated 10 years of business. A month later, this happens. I was like, okay, I'm def doing this until I am in the ground because magic. Like, yeah. So that's my what the Nell story. Cause
Oh, that's so
I
good.
couldn't believe it happened. Who does that? That's wild. So
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely wild, especially fabricating something and questioning your integrity. You're absolutely right. And it's so like you could have gone down so many different paths with that. I mean, it could
yes.
have destroyed you. If you were a newer entrepreneur, do you think it would have?
If I was a newer entrepreneur, like let's say that me and this colleague hadn't been working together for like 4.5, 5 years at this
Yeah.
point. Oh, it absolutely, if it was in the first 6 months to a year of our relationship, it would have ruined it. The lucky thing for me, right, is the person that I am. So my
Hmm.
colleague has seen me time and time again reroute people back to her that
Yeah.
tried to go to me direct, right?
Right.
So like I was safe in that because I'd already showed her who I was over all these years. But yeah, if something like that. The other thing too is the longer you're in your business, the more that imposter syndrome goes away. I mean, it probably
Mhm.
took me 5 years maybe for that imposter
Yeah.
syndrome to completely leave. And then I was like, oh yeah, I am good at what I do. That's cool to know. Right. But
Yeah.
it took me a while to believe that. So if this
Yeah.
had happened too before that went away,
Mhm.
I think I would have been emotionally crushed as
Mhm.
well, you know, as
Mhm. Yeah.
potentially ruined with my business. That being said, I don't think one misstep like that could ruin my business, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to
Yeah.
keep trucking no matter what. But I think the other thing people have to remind themselves is at the end of the day, it's just a job. And I hate to talk about my little baby business. It's like all around me on my desk, you know. Like
Yes.
I hate to say that you're just a job, guys, but like it is. It's just a job. So at the end of the day, let's say it
Yeah.
had tanked and, you know, all of a sudden
Yeah.
Bitsy McCann, horrible reputation, tries to steal friends' business. You know, like let's say that was my moniker on the street. I would have found something else. You know, maybe it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been entrepreneurship anymore. Maybe I would have completely changed directions and done something else. But
Mhm.
I think you have to have the fortitude to get through stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think you have to love what you're doing also to make it through times like
Yeah.
this. But yeah, in the beginning,
Absolutely.
I don't know. Now could have been a bad
Oh,
go. Could
oh,
have
I
been a
mean,
bad go.
you said it earlier, timing is everything. So I think that came your way when it was supposed to.
I think it did as well. And the other thing I thought about too is something I referenced earlier, which now I'm it's realizing totally tied in, but competition happens at
Yeah.
the bottom. And this would have been a way for this person to be collaborative in some place, but maybe they're just not at the top yet. So,
That is full circle. That is an amazing way to end the episode. Bitsy, I can't say thank you enough for being on today. I'm so thrilled that we had this chat and everybody in the world can listen to it. But please tell people, so you are referral only. Am I correct? That's what you mentioned.
yes.
That congratulations. That is amazing. Is there any place or anywhere that you want people to find you or anything that they can go look at for work or anything like that?
Sure. I mean, sure. I'm the only Bitsy McCann in the whole United States. I've never checked
Oh,
globally though. So there might be another Bitsy McCann out there just like doing their thing in India or something. But
yeah.
I'm the only Bitsy McCann here. So people can feel free to find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Facebook, I might not accept your friend request, but Bitsy Plus Design is on there. I'll accept anybody on LinkedIn. That feels like a safe place to accept every single
Right.
person.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say is too, if like, let's say you're a young female entrepreneur, you're just starting out, I'd be happy to have a free 1 hour chit chat with you to just give you
That's
some
so sweet.
guidance and some thoughts about what you could be doing or shouldn't be doing or how to
Yeah.
get involved. I'm not a coach. I'm not accredited or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to coach. This will not be a recurring session, but I think I wish when I had started my business, I would have had someone I could have just called once or twice and been like, hey, I'm stuck. How do I do this? Or, hey, I'm just starting. What should I do to make sure I'm setting myself up for success? And I'd be happy to be that to any young lady entrepreneur out there because I wish I would have had that 10 years ago. So I'm happy to be a resource. So people can find me. I think the best way for that is go to my Bitsy Plus Design Facebook page and shoot me a message there. And then I'll respond to that and we can set up a time to talk. But I wish I would have had that. So I try to be that as well.
Oh, I love that. I love it. What goes around comes around. You're an amazing person. Thank you so, so much, Bitsy. And yes, all of you young lady entrepreneurs out there, please do connect with Bitsy. She has so, so much value and she's been there, done that, and can offer so much to you to help you in your journey. So thank you, Bitsy, for being on today. And
thank you, Nell.
yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for listening. Of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, that's awesome. Great. Thank you. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, head on over and do the things that I just mentioned. But if you are listening to this on all of your favorite audio platforms, go ahead and leave us a review. That's how we grow here at the What the Nell podcast. And as always, thank you so much for listening. And I will catch you on the next one.
To learn more about how to tell your story, connect with Nell at enTICEingmedia.com. That's ENTICEING media.com. Thanks for listening to the What the Nell podcast.